what happens when you remote view Roswell? We're talking about the UFO crash at Roswell, 1947. What happens if you get a really talented remote viewer to see what the real truth is around that incident? Let's get into it. This is really going to be a fascinating exploration. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Also, please comment below and let me know your thoughts as I'm going through the story. Oh, and please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member to receive exclusive access and videos. See the first line in the description below, or you can simply leave a tip in the tip jar with the super thanks feature below, next to the like button. Okay, let's get into this. Daz Smith is one of my favorite remote viewers, and he's one of the best. He's worked alongside of, Lynn Buchanan, who's a very famous remote viewer, and he's worked with the police to help find missing people. He's a real deal, super legit, highly credible remote viewer. And for years, he worked with the Farsight Institute, and he has since separated himself from the Farsight Institute. This remote viewing session is done under the auspices of the Farsight Institute at the direction of, what's his name, Courtney Brown, the director of the Farsight Institute. Now, I have some issues with Courtney Brown, or rather, I think that he might have some issues himself. I'm not being disparaging in any way, but I do have some questions. If you're familiar with the career of Courtney Brown, you will have seen changes in him over the years, and I'm not entirely sure he's as stable as he could be. And I say that again with great respect and care, but for remote viewing, that's very important. If the person tasking a remote viewer with the target is, mentally compromised in any way, and, I'm not saying that that's the case, but if that is the case, then, that's worth taking note of. So, if you don't think that anything is going on with Courtney Brown, and if you think that he's completely fine, then please let me know in the comments below. So I do worry about that, and that is a caveat that I freely admit to with this remote viewing session. Daz Smith is an accomplished remote viewer. Courtney Brown is an accomplished tasker, and he's very disciplined and methodical about his remote viewing procedures. However, I do worry that there's something going on there with him, and that could color, theoretically, when he's tasking somebody with an assignment, that could color that assignment. So just something to keep in mind. But this is a really neat remote viewing session, and it goes into a lot of detail. Daz Smith is able to glean a lot of really juicy stuff from a series of remote viewing sessions he did on this target. And again, this is a blind target. He has no idea what he's being tasked to view. And so I'm going to play a couple of different videos. The first one is just of him seeing the crash itself. And here's what he had to say about that.
I don't know, it's almost like it gets hit by lightning or something. Something happens to this object, interrupts its movement, and then it comes on a downward spiral, and it kind of like feels like it impacts or hits a surface and either embeds in or goes under the surface, and I'm not sure if that's fully. So it's an object that is moving above, something interacts with it, it feels like an accidental occurrence, the object then drops and embeds in a surface, and this is This area feels wide. It's remote. There's no life. Well, there's no life living in the air, but also at the same time, this feels like it's being watched. It's been seen.
So there you go. According to Daz, this was an accidental, crash. This was not a gift, or if it was a gift, the occupants of the craft weren't aware of it. That dovetails with what I've researched before, where people have actually interacted with one or two of the beings that were still alive after the crash and sensed great fear in them. They did not seem like entities that were willingly giving them their lives for a cause that they believed in. And they didn't seem to know about this. They were full of fear. So that aligns very well with what Daz was saying. This was an accident. This wasn't something prepared for. But what happened to the craft afterward? Now that's where it gets even more interesting, because Daz is able to pick up on what he sees as some sort of underground base. And he describes what looks like military guys and scientists and engineers in an underground base working on this object that was recovered at this craft. Here he is talking about that.
So all in all, it's a very strange target, 15B. It feels like I'm in a remote land location. It feels very harsh, very dry, craggy, away from people, away from life, civilization. It feels on the edge, feels like an outpost, purposely placed in this location. And it feels like there's an outcropping or rocks or something there. Within this feels like there's a linear, long, horizontal man-made structure. Very utilitarian, very grey, cold, harsh environment, but layered. Very big, layered. Lots of life living there, working there. Over 100. Seem to have different levels, different compartments, which change as you progress up and down through the structure. So it's very long and linear, but it also moves downwards as well. Within this structure feel like vertical, silo-like launch type tubes, which feel like very smooth, molten, rounded. Everything else is square, but this feels rounded. And they feel like it go up and down, and it's for movement of another hidden man-made object that goes up and down through these shafts. It feels like it moves through these shafts. These shafts are purposely put there for this object to be lowered up and down. And this object feels like it's man-made and solid. It feels like it's kept secret, protected. It feels like these walls are extra thick to stop something or to shield something. Maybe it's to shield everything else from this, or this from everything else. I don't know. But it feels like it's shielded and protected. Kept secure here inside, and then when it's needed, it's kind of like moved up and down, and it goes out. And it feels like this smaller man-made structure feels like it moves. Feels like it's a moving object. Feels like it's sleek, metallic, shiny, very high tech, glowing, iridescent. Has an energy to it. Just works and moves on its own. What else can I get on this? I think I covered most of it really. But yeah, the main focus, and I don't know why, the main focus seems to be this kind of like vertical, curved, ribbed structure within a structure for movement of this object that's kept secret and hidden, but used. It's used, and it does feel like it's kind of like, because it moves, it feels like it's a vehicle. It feels like it flies or has flown. I don't know, because it's got all these weird magical kind of feelings about it as well. Some kind of weird exotic kind of energy. Very esoteric, if you were looking at this in the past, it would look like some kind of mythical kind of strange experience. So yeah, I think that's mainly all I'm getting on target 15B. Again, in summary, a man-made structure in a remote location, land, feels layered and remote. Feels like there's over 100 different life forms, or 100 life forms in there. They feel male. They feel like they're structured within a kind of regime, wearing uniforms, very kind of clinical to themselves. They don't speak. They don't feel like there's a lot of fun. It feels very work-like, very pushed to what they're doing, and it feels very engineering, kind of technology, knowledge, information kind of thing, all wrapped up in one base. And within this structure, and it feels very horizontal, within the land or on the land, there are these vertical shafts which lead down underground to almost like secret storage areas, where we have these man-made objects that move up and down through that area, and then they seem to kind of like move off in what like a vehicle would move using some kind of very strange exotic propulsion. Yeah, so that's it. So that's all I'm getting on target 15B. I hope this is enough.
Isn't that fascinating? So we've got a UFO in some secret underground base. It comes and goes from this shaft. It appears to be functioning. The Roswell UFO appears to have been, put back together, or whatever it is, whatever those engineers that he was saying, maybe they got it to work. So he describes it as being able to maneuver on its own. At least that was the implication that I got from what he was saying. But what is this location? Are we talking Wright-Patterson? Are we talking S4? Are we talking about, the main area at Area 51? What precise location is this? But he describes men in uniform working in a hierarchy. Definitely sounds like the military. He also describes what looks like engineers. And he says they don't talk a lot, which is what you get from people like Bob Lazar. Is they're highly compartmentalized. They don't talk much to each other. They're all doing their own thing. They can't talk to each other. They're not allowed. And Bob Lazar has even said that has hindered their efforts at reverse engineering and understanding these craft, because they're so compartmentalized that they can't share information and ideas. He says that the compartmentalization of information has truly hindered their work. So that aligns very well with what Daz Smith saw. Does it align too well? Could Courtney Brown, his tasker, have been aware of Bob Lazar and his story, and this was in Courtney Brown's mind, and that is what Daz was seeing, was this connection with Courtney Brown? That's always the problem in my mind with remote viewing, is that you have to link with the tasker in order to get the target. At least that's my understanding. You're given these numbers, and you have to divine the target from those numbers. Only the tasker knows the target, what those numbers correspond to. So you have to link to the tasker's mind just to get the target. But along the way, you could be picking up on stuff from the tasker's mind. Also, I feel a lot better about remote viewing sessions when it's more than one remote viewer looking at a target. Ideally, you would have multiple remote viewers with multiple taskers. I think that would be the ideal way to do it. If you could have 3 teams of, 7 remote viewers with 3 different taskers, somehow all looking at the same target, and that would be a little tricky. You might have to have a computer randomly generate some targets, and when they line up, give them to all 3 teams, or something like that. Because obviously if it was picked by one person, it would be the same thing as a tasker assigning the target. The remote viewers would be picking up on whoever originally came up with the idea from the target. They would have to interface with that person's mind in order to get the target. So it might be better if it were a computer generating that, and if it were assigning those to different teams. If I had all the money, that's one thing that I would want to do with it. So take this remote viewing session for what it's worth. It's one remote viewer looking at a target linking with the mind of Courtney Brown, who I have questions about. And again, I say that respectfully, because I do respect Courtney Brown and his body of work. And yeah, but seeing his career over the years, has made me wonder a little bit about his mental state. And so I wonder about anyone linking to him. And again, I say that very respectfully. But yeah, if you've seen some of his recent work, you might know what I'm talking about. And I think there's a reason why Daz Smith and Dick Algier have left the Farsight Institute and no longer associate with Courtney Brown. That said, everything that Daz was able to pick up in this remote viewing session seems very credible and very legit. We've got the Roswell craft crashed accidentally. People were watching it. It was taken to an underground base where people were working on it and actually got it to work. To me, that was the surprising part about all of this. It's also worth pointing out that Daz says one of the life forms aboard the ship survived, which also, corresponds to a lot of the lore around the Roswell crash. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but I thought it was worth sharing with you guys. What do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Please smash the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. Please join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. And please, if you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. See the first line in the description below, and there's 2 tiers of membership to receive exclusive access in videos. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road.